So we labeled the last one 549, and it goes through 547, then it skips 548 because there was another one in there. So there actually is no exhibit 548. So I'm just going to explain that to the jury.
I'm going to bring the weight on that.
Okay.
I think I told her in print, wait for
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Something to the front.
We can.
And it is the assets page.
Okay.
That's where the numbers are.
Okay. That's fine. We can figure that out at the end of the day. I hope. All right, John, ready? Ready, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Austin? Yes. Bring him on in. Defense way the call? Yeah. Welcome back, folks. We're ready to resume the officer's testimony. You understand you're still under oath?
Yes, sir.
All right, John, you may continue.
Judge, I believe we did introduce 628 into evidence.
It is the backpack and the content.
Yes. So I don't want to go through all of the contents, but is it fair to say that there were a number of books inside the backpack?
Yes.
And I would like for you to look at these 4 books and look at the and see if these are 4 of the books that were in the backpack and depicted in your photographs.
Yes, they are.
And if you could open the cover page, please, and just stand up and publish to the jury. And I'm going to ask you if there's a name written on the inside of the book.
There is.
And what is that name?
Joel Guy.
And would you do that with the title page of each of these books, please?
Yes.
First one was All Quiet on the Western Front. The next one is
Hollywood Goes to War, How Politics, Profits, and Propaganda Shaped World War II Movies.
Is there a name on the title page of that book?
There is. Joel Guy.
And the third book?
This is Profiles in Power, Elizabeth I. And on the inside cover, Joel Guy.
And the fourth one?
Also, Profiles in Power, Churchill. And on the inside cover, Joel Guy.
Okay, now, you know, as part of this backpack, we saw and discussed a notebook.
Correct.
Correct. And at some point, did you submit this notebook for testing with the TBI?
I did.
And that why it was a different package for?
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 629 and ask you if you can discuss if you recognize the sticker on the exhibit.
Yes, so the sticker is the same as the sticker from the maroon backpack with the items marked out to denote that this is indeed the spiral notebook with writing that was removed from the aforementioned maroon backpack.
You can publish this. Take it out.
Separated for testing. For TV. This is item for us, number 114. The location of recovery is the guest bedroom floor next to the bed. Is one navy blue suitcase with staining and multiple items of clothing and one brown USMC sheath.
Move this into evidence. I've been asked to publish the publish it in the context of it.
Without further objection to 630. I think we did 629. Yeah, I just did not. You moved 629.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna put it over here.
Yeah.
It'll be easier to put it on.
There's some staining.
Let's just go through and see this. Does that appear to be a knife sheath?
Yes.
And are there articles of clothing in here?
Multiple items of clothing.
Can you look at the underpants and describe the brand name?
A pair of Banana Republic. Gray briefs.
Was there a note also inside the suitcase?
There was a excuse me, a posted photographed on scene with the front pocket for Dan Bordeaux's Ace Hardware, 4767 Highway 1, Napoleon, Louisiana, 70390. Written with Ruto, 6.5 pound sewer line cleaner for $19.99.
Is that the name of the empty tubs that we found and introduced into evidence previously?
I believe they were similar. It's a similar product, but a different name. But
Sewer line cleaner.
correct.
Okay. Now, I want to show you what has been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 631 through 635, and ask you if you can identify this kind of thing.
Yes. So for us, these were items 248 247, 248, 249, 250, and 251. And these are the location of recovery for all of these items is the 3824 Hillside Terrace Lane address. And they are buccal swabs from Michelle Dennison and the juvenile children, and a William Napier.
Can you describe just briefly what we'll ask to move those into evidence and
Without objection, I'll do 631 to 635.
were those submitted to the TBI?
These were not.
Just describe what a buccal swab is.
A buccal swab is we open up a sterile set of cotton swabs and swab inside the cheek area, the buccal area, to collect a DNA sample if needed for testing. Or
And were those collected because they were present on Thanksgiving at the Golden View address?
correct.
If I could have just a moment. I think
Cross-examination?
Thank you.
We're going to recall Officer Stanley for limited purposes one exhibit.
Any objection to the recall?
Well, we do think she's been called. Is it this witness or?
It was the same one that came in earlier than the yesterday.
This witness, and the reason being, Judge, that when we were trying to separate the evidence between the two forensic technicians, this particular exhibit was inadvertently placed in Officer Sandlin's stack of exhibits.
I'm going to
Did you object to that?
allow the recall. There's not going to prejudice the defendant any. It was an item that was inadvertently overlooked.
They're certainly aware.
Please take the stand again. Get it cleaned up. Go ahead and have a seat, and once you're seated, you may remove your mask. You gotta you're still on road?
Yes, sir.
Officer Campbell, sorry to ask you to come back in now.
That's okay.
I want to ask you, in the course of your evidence collection, did you have cause to confiscate one pair of universal scissors from the upstairs hallway?
Yes, I believe so. I can verify with the property list. There was a lot of evidence.
Item
in this
number
case.
54.
Yes, sir. I did collect those.
Sure, what's been marked as State's Exhibit 636 for identification. Ask you if you recognize that box.
Yes, sir. It's the box that contains the scissors that were at the top of the stairs.
Those scissors that you confiscated.
Yes, sir.
We move that into evidence and ask if you could publish those scissors.
Any objection?
All right.
To be exhibit 636, you may open it.
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
No question.
Thank you, officer. You really can't leave this guy.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness, please.
We call Eddie Watson. Officer Eddie Watson.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Can I have a seat, sir?
Sir.
Once you're seated, you may remove your mask.
Tell us your name, sir,
Officer Edward Wassman,
and by whom are you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm a digital forensic examiner.
And if you would, describe to the members of the jury what that entails.
We examine digital evidence found on computers, cell phones, SD cards, USB drives, zeros and ones.
Okay. And what type of training have you undergone in order to be qualified for that position?
I have a list.
Okay.
It's about 3 pages.
Have you been to specific academies or trainings that focus on forensic examination of electronic devices?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and kind of describe some of the training you've undergone in that capacity.
I've been through NW3C training with identifying and seizing electronic evidence. Also through several ICAC trainings. U.S. Secret Service has sent me to training several times for several different types of digital forensics, both with computers, cell phones, digital evidence, advanced forensics. It's an extensive list.
Okay. Let me just one more. And sir, I want to talk to you. Well, first of all, how long have you been employed at the Sheriff's Department?
Since 2003, May 5th, 2003.
And how long of your career, in terms of years, have been dedicated to forensic work?
Since 2011.
Okay. And I want to talk to you about 2016, November. Did you have cause to respond to 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County?
Yes, sir. I was contacted to respond to that address. I want to think it was about 10 o'clock that evening.
Okay. And what was the basis of your response, sir?
What was the date?
The basis of you responding. Why did you go there?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Why did you go to the address?
I was told that there was a laptop on the bed that needed to be recovered.
Okay. And did you, in fact, recover a laptop from a bed?
Yes, it was. It was a Surface Pro that was found in the center bedroom at the upstairs level.
And did the Surface Pro have any attachments that were attached to it when you arrived on scene?
When I arrived, there was one hard drive attached to the USB port on the side, on the left side of it.
First, we'll start with what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 637, sir. I'm going to ask you if you recognize the package.
Yes, sir.
And if you would, tell us what's inside that package.
The Microsoft Surface Pro, serial number 034150161654.
And based on your investigation, is that the same Microsoft Surface Pro that you took from a middle bedroom in the upstairs as you described it?
Yes, sir.
Now, at this point, we move that in as State's Exhibit 637.
Without further objection, will be 637.
I asked to have that published, if I could. Give it a knife. Give it a knife. You got it.
Sir.
Hold that up and show it to the members of the jury, please. You mentioned that at the time you took possession of that laptop that had a device attached to it. What was that, sir?
This is a black passport hard drive, USB.
Was it black, sir?
I believe so, if memory serves.
Do you want to refer to your notes?
I would have to at that point. It was either black or... I don't have those with my notes right here. I'm sorry. It was either black or silver.
Okay. All right. I'm going to hand you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 638, sir, and ask if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
And what is in that package, sir?
To Western Digital, my Passport Ultra, white, external hard drive, serial number Whiskey, X-ray, Zebra, 1 David, 1 6, Lincoln, Charlie, Zebra, 6, Union.
Did that refresh your memory, excuse me, as to what color the drive was?
Yes, yes, sir.
At this point, Your Honor, we'd move that in as State's Exhibit 638.
Without further objection, be 638. Again, folks, at this point, 637 and 638 are the physical objects, the Surface Pro itself and the hard drive. At this point, you have not heard any electronic data from those. So when you're looking at 637 and 638, you can only look at the object itself. You can't plug them up and see what the contents are.
If you put that back in the bag for me. With regard to exhibits 637 and 638, tell us what safeguards you put in place in order to transport that laptop.
When I arrived on the scene, the concern was who the laptop belonged to. It was running. It was unlocked, sitting in the middle of the bed. From looking at the laptop, I immediately noticed an application running at the bottom right-hand corner near the time in a place we call the sys tray. It's S-Y-S-T-R-A-Y, sys tray. And it was a Samsung application. I hovered the mouse over that application, and it showed me a Gmail address that was connected to that application. And the Gmail address was joelguy00@gmail.com.
Did you physically take possession of the laptop at that point?
Sir?
Did you physically take possession of the laptop at that point?
Yes, sir.
And before you collected other things, did you want to keep the laptop on?
We noticed that the laptop was running BitLocker on the hard drive.
And if you would explain to the jury what BitLocker is, what does that mean to you as a forensic technician who deals with electronics?
BitLocker is a Microsoft security tool that keeps anyone that doesn't know a password to the BitLocker encryption from looking at the hard drive. So effectively, if I don't know the password to that BitLocker encryption, I cannot look at the hard drive. And this, at the point we saw it on the bed, it was unlocked, which means I could look at the hard drive at that time. But if the computer restarted or if the hard drive was disconnected, I would no longer be able to see the data on the drive without the password. So it was very critical to us to keep the hard drive and computer running and stable, get it back to the lab to await the extraction.
And when you say to await extraction, explain what you mean by that, sir.
We started the extraction on the laptop and the hard drive, and during that process, the computer restarted. It blue screened. If you've heard of blue screen of death, it got an error which caused the computer to restart. When it rebooted, the computer was challenging for a password or facial recognition, and the hard drive was bit locked. There was no way to look at the data on that drive without the BitLocker password.
Okay, so based on the computer being bit locked without a password, were you ever able to conduct a forensic examination on the Microsoft Surface Pro? We
have not been able to bypass that security as of yet.
Okay. And did you also collect a desktop computer from 11434 Golden View Lane?
Yes, sir. That was a few days later. We returned back to collect additional items, and the desktop was part of those additional items I collected.
And where was the desktop computer located within the residence?
It was downstairs in the den, adjacent to the, or on the side of the family room area.
Okay. And
If
was
you
it,
walk into the family room, it was on the right side in the corner.
okay, was it operational and was it on or?
It was powered off at the time.
Folks, with what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 639, sir, for ID, and ask if you recognize this.
Yes, sir.
If you would, tell us what that is.
This is a Dell Inspiron desktop computer, serial number 7, Q as in Queen, H as in Henry, 0, B as in Bravo, K as in Kilo, 1.
All right, we move that into State's Exhibit 639.
Additional section will be 639. Again, it's just the physical item that's in evidence, not any electronic information.
Okay, with regard to Exhibit 639, the Dell desktop computer, were you able to bring that back to the property unit, sir?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to ultimately conduct a forensic examination on that computer?
Yes, I was. We performed a bit-by-bit extraction on the hard drive.
And did you find anything on the computer close in time to November the 28th, 2016 that was relevant to your investigation?
Yes, sir. We found on 11/26 of 2016 at 12:15 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time, 7 USB devices were connected at the same time to this computer, which seemed to be a significant event. There was a
And if you would, let me kind of follow up on that. How do you go about determining how many USB drives are connected to a computer at any given time or have been?
There are registry entries that Windows keeps up with. Every time you plug a USB drive into a computer, it makes an entry about that USB drive with information about the USB component, drive, camera, phone, whatever it might be that plugs into it. And all of these had this entry put into the registry at the same time.
Okay.
There was a Google search discovered for sodium percarbonate on 11/27/2016 at 8:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Following up on that, in my investigation, I discovered sodium percarbonate is the active ingredient in OxyClean.
And again, that was November the 27th.
11/27/2016, yes, sir, at 8:05 a.m. Eastern Standard.
Okay. And any other relevant information that you uncovered on the desktop computer?
Then discovered on 11/27/2016 at 10:49 a.m. Eastern Time. Capital One artifacts were discovered in the history, the browser history. Deposit transfer confirmation, deposit transfer validation, account summary, services login, and online banking Capital One 360.
Okay.
All these artifacts were found again at 11/27/2016 at 10:49 a.m.
And November the 27th?
Sir.
the physical hard drives from the Dell Inspiron desktop.
Yes, sir. I collected a lot of different drives and different loose items from that address.
Okay. How may I approach, Your Honor? First, you must contribute to State's Exhibit 640, sir, for identification, and ask if you can identify that package.
This is a Dell Inspiron. Oh no, the tag is wrong. I'm afraid this is a Fujitsu hard drive.
That was something that you operated from 11434 going into.
I believe it was in a laptop. If I remember correct, if memory serves. Okay. Yes, sir. It was, see here, it was in a laptop computer. If memory serves, it was found in a laptop computer in the den inside of a laptop bag.
So we move that in as State's Exhibit 640.
Okay. 640, again, it's just the physical items, not actually the electronic items.
What number is the black one?
95 is item 95.
Pink cell phone?
I have that. I'm looking for the one that has it.
It's introduced through Tom Finch, so it should be several.
It's 474.
First, sir, I'm going to approach and show you what's been previously entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 474, and ask if you recognize that package, sir.
It was a Samsung Galaxy S5 cell phone.
And is that one of the phones that you examined in this case?
Can I open this?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. I recognize this.
Okay, and did you give that a title in your investigation?
Yes, sir. We labeled it evidence number PD02, portable device 2.
If you could put that back in the jar. Sure.
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
This is a Samsung cell phone with pink case.
And is that one of the devices that you conducted a forensic examination on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you put that back in there.
Labeled this PD01.
Tell us what you did in order to conduct an examination on PD01 and PD02 being a black Samsung and a Samsung enclosed in a pink case.
We performed an analysis on both devices.
And what do you do when you perform an analysis on a cell phone in particular?
We have several different methods that we use. In this method, we utilized a physical examination. Physical examination is, again, a bit-by-bit copy, an exact copy of everything that's found on the phone. And we were fortunate to be able to do that because that then provides us with all the information on the phone, including any deleted information, any tower information, or anything else that might not otherwise be found on a cell phone.
Okay, so starting with PD01, did you find anything relevant close in time to November the 28th, 2016?
I found on PD01,
And for the record, would that be the phone in the pink case?
one with the pink case, there was a few text messages between the owner of the device and Joel Michael asking, text me when you leave tomorrow, be careful, love you, and then the respond will do. And then and that was at on 11/22/2016 at 7:56 p.m. Then on 11/23/2016 at 11:45, there's a text message from Joe Michael to this device that said just left, and the response to that at 12:25:03 p.m. was K, be careful. I found at 10:07 a.m. on, I'm sorry, I got my date wrong there. On 11/25/2016 at 4:03, the last visited website on that device. After that time, no more websites were looked at in the web history.
And again, this is the phone with the pink case.
This is the one with the pink case, correct?
Okay. And the last website visit was on the 25th?
Yes, 11:25
And
at
with-
4:03 p.m. Also on 11:25 at 5:12 p.m. Eastern Standard was the last tower update where the phone had spoke to the tower, and that was every time a tower changes, the phone had a log of those changes. That last tower update was at on 11/25/2016 at 5:12.
Okay. Now, with regard to PD2 being the Samsung Galaxy in the black case, did you find anything relevant on or near November 28th, 2016?
Yes, on 11/27, November 27th, 2016 at 9:38 a.m., there was an inbound text message from the number 872265, and it was read, and the message was U.S. Bank alerts, card not present alert. Your card, 5773, was charged $2,051.03 at Bursar Operations. To opt out, text stop. There was one following behind that at 9:40. I'm sorry, I'm reading these backwards. That was at 9:41 and 29 seconds. There was one just before that at 9:40 and 2 seconds. U.S. Bank alerts, card not present alert. Your card, 5773, was charged $1,589.78 at Bursar Operations. To opt out, text stop. And then just before that one, on 11/27/2016 at 9:38 and 26 seconds a.m., there was a red text message that said, U.S. Bank Alerts, card not present alert. Your card 5773 was charged $1,025 at Bursar Operations to opt out text stop. That was the last of that was the 3 text messages that I noted.
And those text messages came in on what date, sir?
Bursar Operations, when I looked into that, I found that that belongs to LSU. So that Capital One alerting individual that LSU, the money was transferred to LSU through that credit card number.
Okay. And what date were those text messages?
I'm sorry, what?
What date were those text messages? What date did they come in?
The date of those text messages was November 27th, 2016.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
No question.
Thank you, sir. You may sit down. Here you go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And next one.
We have a documentary piece of evidence, an affidavit, the custodian's affidavit.
All right.
And Mr. Stevens, Mr. Halstead, it's the SunTrust. Did you need that? Did you forget that? So, Your Honor, please, this is a business records affidavit from Deborah Rogers, who's the custodian of records for SunTrust Bank. And this affidavit concerns the account of the account holder named Lisa Guy. It references the account number, and there are a one-page account statement for a transaction made on November the 28th, 2016, check card purchase, transfer date 11/27/2016, Submeter 1 LLC, 022557657577, Louisiana, in the amount of a withdrawal or debit for $3,090, again on November the 27th, 2016. And we would submit this as our next.
Any further objections?
Nothing beyond what we've already done with the affidavit.
Very well. All right, folks, the court is now going to receive into evidence Exhibit 641, which has an affidavit from the custodian of records indicating what they purport it to be. So that is evidence you may consider as well. All right, next item for witness.
Call Mr. Jeremy McCord.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Please not speak about that. As you receive, you may remain silent.
Tell us your name, sir,
Jeremy McCord,
and by whom you employed.
the Knox County Sheriff's Office.
And were you so employed in November of 2016?
Yes, sir.
And if you would, how long have you been at the Sheriff's Department?
Since September 10th, 2007.
Okay, and how did you become involved in this case, sir?
I'm the lead investigator on the case, sir.
Okay, and where were you assigned November the 28th of 2016?
I was assigned to the Major Crimes Unit as a detective.
Okay, and I want to talk to you about what initially brought you to 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County.
I had received a phone call from our teleserve unit indicating that an employer was concerned for Lisa Guy, who had not shown up for work that morning. She had some type of lunch or some type of event with coworkers planned. Her not showing up to work, not answering phone calls or anything else was very uncharacteristic of her. I had also learned that our officers had gone out and done a welfare check at the residence sometime before then. And having that information, plus the information that the caller is still calling in is persistent, that something's wrong, I decided to contact the officer that responded and went back to the residence, or went out to the residence initially to see what was going on.
Okay, and the initial officer that responded, was that Officer Ballard?
Yes,
Okay. And based on the call, did you go with him back to the residence?
I did.
And if you would, tell the members of the jury what you encountered when you were outside of the residence.
Upon my arrival, there were vehicles in the driveway. There was a for sale sign in the front yard. The back fence was closed. The front door was locked. You could observe, you could see that there were groceries inside the residence. With the vehicles in the driveway and the information that we had, it was obvious that the owners of the vehicles could possibly be inside the residence and need assistance. I actually jumped the fence, went to the back with another officer, got down and got up on the door, observed that there was a doorknob missing on the back door, and the glass was warm from the inside of the house. Like, you could just tell that the door was warm, and there was some kind of strange odor that I observed. I don't know if I verbalized it. I know that it was more or less just a feeling sensation, feeling very odd or something ominous about it. Went back around the fence. At some point, the realtor was contacted, and I had observed that there was no realtor box on the front of the door. So I called the number listed for the realtor and spoke with someone at the office, and then I believe the realtor themselves. And it was suggested to me, A, that there should have been a lockbox on the front door, and B, that perhaps there was another avenue of entry because without us having to break windows or anything like that to get inside the residence. And a garage door opener was located. The garage door was opened. As soon as the garage door was opened, you could feel heat coming from the garage door.
Let me ask you, sir, investigator. So at this point, what are your concerns? You arrive on a crime scene and go through your concerns as a police officer conducting a welfare check, what you're experiencing, what you're processing.
At the time, we didn't know that there was a crime scene. At the time, what we're doing is conducting a welfare check, which is something that law enforcement does on a daily basis, even in this community. People call daily to check on people that they've not heard from. It's either an employer that's not heard from an employee, or a family member that's not been able to get a hold of a loved one. They're not picking up the phone. They may be unable to go themselves, or they don't want to go themselves because of the unknown. So they'll call law enforcement, and we'll go and conduct a welfare check. So at this point in time, all I'm doing is trying to see if somebody inside needs help.
Okay. Did you run the license plate numbers on the vehicles that were in the driveway?
I don't believe I ran them through leads.
Okay. In the course of investigation, did you learn that they belonged to Lisa Guy and Joel Guy Sr.?
I did.
Okay. And did you take that into account when you were on scene?
On scene, having knowledge having knowledge that the two vehicles in the driveway were their cars, and they weren't known to have any other cars. And I'm not specifically sure how I got that, other than perhaps the neighbor had said their cars were in the driveway. I'm not 100% certain. But we had information, and it was obvious that there were vehicles in the driveway. Nobody was answering the door, and it was an odd situation.
Okay, so the fact that there's vehicles in the driveway and no one's answering the door, that's an odd situation.
Yes.
What else makes the situation odd to you as an investigator?
Well, as an investigator, what's odd is with nobody coming to the door, and the fact that, Lisa Guy, who had plans, who had an employment history where she showed up to work daily, and if she wasn't at work, she would have called. The questions were asked of the complainant if there were any history that she was worried about as far as her being in trouble or anything like that, and she said no. I mean, at this point, it could be anything. We could walk into a house and it's a carbon monoxide exposure and people are deceased inside. We just don't know what we're walking into. But with the knowledge that she's not answering her phone, she's not responding to texts, and also knowing that the husband had been called as well by the employer, it's alarming.
Okay, so We have the cars that were alarming to you, the fact that Miss Lisa Guy is not at the residence.
Correct.
She's supposed to be at work. What other factors did you consider?
Well, the front doorknob was it was obviously not matching the deadbolt. Most doors have doorknobs and deadbolts that match, and with the lack of the realtor box and the realtor telling me, hey, there should be a realtor box on there, that's just another factor that we consider in, a circumstance where something has gone wrong and we need to go in and check it out, make sure nobody needs help.
Okay, so in addition to the front doorknob, when you go around the rear of the residence, is there other factors that alarm you as an investigator?
Well, the back door was missing the doorknob as well. The back doorknob, it appeared that it was the same color as what was on the front door, if that makes any sense. It's like you took the back doorknob off, you put the front doorknob, put it on the front door, and somehow removed that lockbox.
Okay, so in addition to the back door missing the knob, was there anything else about the rear of the residence that alarmed you?
Yeah, overall there was something emanating from that door to the point where I felt heat, and I also smelled an odor that was chemical in nature, and I'm not certain exactly what specifically that odor was. It was just odd to me.
Okay. What about the fact that a doorknob is not present?
That, as I said earlier, that doorknob is removed, and it is apparent that that doorknob is on the front door.
Okay. And when you went back with Investigator Ballard, did you physically see the groceries inside the front door?
You could actually see the groceries from the back door looking through the doorknob as well. So you could tell that there's groceries in what appears to be the front foyer of the residence.
Okay. And taking all these factors into account, did you ultimately make a decision to enter the residence?
I did, to conduct a welfare check.
And do you recall how you or the people, investigators or officers you were with, made entry into the garage?
The garage door was open, and we stacked up, and I was making announcements that we were law enforcement.
Let me back you up for just a moment. When you say the garage door was open, did law enforcement open that garage door?
Yes, law enforcement opened the garage door, and then we went in and went to the door that led from the garage into the residence.
Okay, and how did law enforcement open that door?
I believe I pushed that door open. I believe it was just kind of pushed too. Okay. I don't even know if I touched the doorknob. I just pushed on the door, made entry. And upon walking inside, immediately being hit with odor and heat, very extreme heat.
And backing up even further, how was the garage door open? That's what I'm getting at, sir.
Oh, my apologies. The garage door, there was a garage door opener located in one of the vehicles, and I believe in reviewing everything that one of the other officers may have opened that garage door.
Okay.
Pushed the button.
Okay. So once in the garage, the entry to the garage door into the residence is opened by you?
Yes.
Was it locked?
No.
Okay. And once you're in the residence, describe kind of what you're perceiving, what's going on to you as an investigator.
Overall, when you enter, you don't want to stand in a doorway for an extended period of time because you have people behind you. So you want to try and get in and see what the layout is to determine where to go next when you're clearing the residence. The entire time we're making announcements, we're hit with heat. We're hit, and again with this strange odor. There is a pot on the stove, a large pot that you can tell that the stove is on. The stovetop and the oven are on because of all the heat coming from that area, and it's very odd. And as we're going through the house, we're making announcements. We're moving forward and progressing through the downstairs of the residence, and we observe several things to include the lockbox for the front door of the residence.
Let me kind of slow you down a little bit. You talk fast just naturally, but
Roger that.
We're going to go through room by room and just
Okay.
kind of go through what you're perceiving as an officer. But let me even back up even further. When you open the garage, do you feel that heat that you're describing,
Yes.
is that present in the garage?
It is.
Okay, so starting in the room that is directly through the garage door, it's like a living room. Tell us what you observe in that room, and then we'll move on to different rooms.
Well, initially, when you go through the garage door, it's like an eat-in kitchen. And right there, you've got on the table, you've got what appears to be a purse, a couple wallets that are out, and there's items on the floor that, are, there's bottles and other items on the floor.
Now, are those items on the floor, do those alert you in any way?
It's odd. I mean, there's just there's stuff in the middle of the floor at an entryway. So you're wondering if somebody's had a medical event after they've carried in groceries. You know, we just don't know. So we see these items. We're feeling the heat. The stove's on. The oven's on. We're going through, and as I go into what would be the living room,
Let's stick in that room first.
Okay.
When you described 2 wallets present on the table, did that alarm you in any way?
Yes. I mean, most people, when they leave their residence, in my experience, have their wallet on them. And to have 2 wallets, one male, one female, and for us to have the knowledge that Lisa and Joel Guy resided there by themselves, to see 2 wallets there and nobody answering the door, it's alarming.
Okay, now sticking to the table in the same room where the wallets are, is there anything else present on that table, sir?
There are other items on that table. Specifically, I know that I believe there was a hammer on the table and a cell phone, I believe, on the table.
Was there a doorknob on the table?
Excuse me?
Was there a doorknob on the table?
I don't know if it was on that table or on the dining room table in the formal dining.
Okay.
Because there were doorknob pieces on the formal dining room table.
Okay. So we've gone through the table. We're into the residence. To the right is the kitchen. Let's move on to the kitchen, sir. And just walking through the kitchen slowly, tell us what you observe in the kitchen.
To the right was a stove that appeared to be on with the pot on it, and at the time we didn't know what was in it. And continuing through,
did you see any pill bottles in the kitchen?
There would have been, yes. The issue is when going through the house, we swept it. We swept it twice. So on the first entry, I would have gone totally straight in, and somebody else would have gone through the kitchen, and we would have met in the middle.
Okay.
So my testimony of seeing what would be in there would have been upon the second entry and further investigation.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have seen that first.
So you went straight, and someone else covered the kitchen on the initial entry.
Correct, and then we would go down just to make sure that if something happens, that we're not going to hurt ourselves or anything, and we're clearing it safely, and then we make it through. You know, all I really observed was there was what appeared to be feces in the floor of the living room.
Okay.
I believe that's a living room den type area. Where that fireplace was. There's a fireplace in the wall. There was feces there. I observed that. I remember that. And now went straight through.
Do you recall whether or not any heaters upon your initial entry were on?
I don't know if the heater downstairs was on or not. I know it was hot downstairs. I don't know what position it was in when I'm going through and clearing it.
Okay. So after the dining room there, after the kind of living room, kind of the dining room next, is that fair to say?
Yes, we would. I would have gone through the foyer. That area had the groceries in it and whatnot that was in the floor. There were 3 cases of beer, perishables. There was breakfast meat, stuff like that in bags that you could just see sitting there. And then immediately to the right is a formal dining room that had a large amount of long guns laying there. I think there was a red velvet cake at the end of the table. It's just stuck out. And
so taking into account everything you've witnessed thus far, the circumstances present outside as well as what you observed inside, how are you feeling at this point?
It's terrifying because you don't know if somebody needs some help. I mean, it's just an odd situation. There's nothing downstairs that I'm observing that makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we go through houses and we clear houses regularly, and most of the time, if you encounter something, you kind of know right when you get in. This was a very different situation because once we get upstairs, it's like the world does a 180. Okay. Everything gets turned upside down.
Is your service weapon drawn upon initially entering into the residence? Okay.
It is.
Is that normal protocol?
It is. It's through our training.
Okay, so now we are at the foyer. You mentioned seeing groceries that were left there with perishables in them, or in the bags.
Yes.
The fact that there's groceries with perishables in the bags, did that alarm you as a law enforcement officer?
It did. It's obvious that somebody started a task and they've not finished it. Most people put their groceries up when they get home, especially the items that need to go into a refrigerator or freezer.
Okay. So at that point, do you decide to go up the stairwell, sir?
I do, and I take point and begin going up the stairs.
And when you say you take point, describe what you mean by that.
I get in front of everybody and start clearing the stairwell to try and get an eyeball of what's above us, to see if there's anybody that's obviously in duress, and to make sure there's nobody in there that's going to hurt us. During this time, there's a dog that's barking, and the dog will bark and bark and bark, and then the dog stops barking. That was odd to me. Most dogs, when they bark and you're in their territory, they continue barking. This dog was stopping. He was kind of whimpering at times.
Okay. And are you simultaneously identifying yourself or attempting to identify yourself? Okay. So you made it to the stairs, sir. Does anything change once you reach about halfway up the stairwell?
Once you come up the first steps, you're able to go up like 3 steps and you can see down the hallway. You get a purview of that, and immediately when I turned, the stairwell is
Let's
when
stay on the stairwell. Excuse me for cutting you off. It's important that we get in every detail. But on the stairwell, is there anything present on the walls or railings that alarms you as a law enforcement?
There is. There's reddish brown staining. That's consistent with blood staining that I've observed at other crime scenes. Okay. What appeared to be blood on the wall, and then I was able to see down the hall and see what was also what was directly in front of me. And I think I asked if people had gloves on to put gloves on just for exposure risk.
And once you see the reddish brown staining that you believe to be blood present in the stairwell, does how you're interpreting the scene change at all?
The overall goal, and I don't know if I understand the frame of the question. The overall goal is we have to go through that house and do our job and make sure if there's somebody in there that we can help, that we render aid. Okay. So as we're going through the stairwell and as these other events are occurring, and as I'm observing other things, the end result is not going to change. Once the decision was made to go in, we're going to go in and make sure that people are okay if they're inside.
Okay. Now let's go to the gate. You make it through the gate, and do you observe anything immediately after you make it through the gate at the top of the stairs?
I observed what appeared to be clothing. And sharp instruments, and some kind of bucket. I don't know what it was. It was a bucket. There was something else present with the clothing and what appeared to be reddish-brown staining on the floor, the wall. It's going all over the place. And you can see straight down the hall, and I saw hands not connected to a body. Okay. And at that point, we held the other officers held the hallway, and we started doing standard building clearing. And at that point in time, it's a training thing, and we communicate a little bit, but not much. But I made the decision to turn and go into what eventually I'd learn is the master bedroom.
Okay. So before you go into the bedroom, you observe what you believe to be human hands present down the hallway, which
yes.
Again, is that the exercise room?
Yes.
Okay. And upon viewing those hands, does that change how you're feeling at all?
It's gut wrenching, and it's something that I've never experienced before.
At this point, do you suspect that something's wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay. You mentioned that you broke off right, and you went into the master bedroom. Tell us about the details of what you observed inside that master bedroom before you get to the master bathroom.
When you go in, there was like plastic drop cloth type material or something, a roll of plastic on the bed, and I remember the bed was made, and then there were items scattered on the floor in a general area to my left. As I went in, the door opened. You go straight into the bedroom, and to the left, in the center of the wall, is the master bed. And then there's a lot of space in the room. It's a large room, and there were items on the floor scattered that would later be collected and documented. And I went straight to what would have been my next threat area at this point, which would have been the bathroom.
And before we get into the bathroom, the materials that are on the floor that we've seen in the pictures thus far, a wide array of tools and lights and such,
Correct.
did that alarm you at all as a law enforcement officer? How did you perceive seeing those items on the floor?
I had absolutely no idea what I was walking into.
Okay. So you made it through the master bedroom. Let's talk about what you experienced in the master bathroom.
I went in the master bathroom, and the only thing I saw were 2 tubs with what appeared to be body parts liquefying.
Okay. Did you have occasion to notice if there was a heater on in that bathroom, sir?
It was hot in there. It was hotter in there than most places. I didn't look at the heater at that time, General.
Okay. Did you have occasion to notice any sort of knives present in that bathroom?
There were knives, yes.
Okay. And you had a chance to watch the video. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
At some point, you can be heard saying, "Oh my God!" And what is that in response to?
It's in response to what I saw.
Okay. And after you see that, how has this changed your welfare check at this point?
We obviously there's something that's occurred here, and the number one thing I want to do at this point is A, make sure that we're preserving the crime scene. B, ensuring that there's nobody else inside the residence that needs help. So in doing so, we had to clear the rest of the residence, and then I notified my supervision and started crime scene in the Regional Forensic Center and all that.
Okay. So once you instruct folks to back out at some point after you make your observation in the master bathroom?
I didn't. It was shocking, yes.
Okay.
I did.
And this is after you've observed what you believe to be human hands in the exercise room?
Yes.
Okay. And did you retreat the same way that you entered into the residence?
Yes. The number one goal was when you determine that when it's obvious a crime is committed, you try and have one way in and one way out so that you can maintain as much integrity of a crime scene as you can. It's good to designate points of entry and points of exit, and it was most advantageous for us to go out the way we came.
Okay. And did you clear every room in the residence at that point, or
No.
did you leave some uncleared?
We left some unclear. Where the dog was located actually turned out to be the laundry room, and out of an abundance of caution, I made sure that we had enough personnel to safely clear the room. Again, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know where the room was or what was in that room. We didn't know if somebody was in there. And upon getting enough people there, we made sure that there wasn't anybody, and there wasn't. We got the dog out, and somebody helped him. I'm not sure which officer.
So the first entry, you're with yourself and 3 other people are accompanying you, is that
Yes.
correct? And you do not clear at least one room.
Correct. We hold an area. The theory is you can back out, clear, and hold what you've got until you get enough people there to safely go back up and determine what's going on.
Okay.
It's easier for us to, and safer for all parties involved, especially on the what ifs. If there's somebody in there, our number one goal is everybody's safety in this situation.
Okay. And going back to the upstairs, I'm sorry to jump around a little bit, but is the heat, are you experiencing more heat upstairs than you are downstairs?
It's hotter upstairs than downstairs.
And how about the odors or presence of chemicals?
It's I'll never get those smells out of my head or my dreams.
Okay. So you retreat the same way that you've come in, sir?
Yes.
And at some point, do you get enough number of law enforcement personnel to re-enter that residence?
I do.
Okay. And who was with you at that point?
I believe I had people from the unit from major crimes. There were some additional patrol supervisors there that showed up, and some patrolmen, and a group of us went up, stacked up, and made announcements and cleared the room.
Okay. And when you say stacked up, what are you referring to?
I'm sorry. We get in a line basically in that situation. Take positions to where if something happens, we have some form of either a cover or concealment, and we opened the door and determined that there was just the dog in there.
Okay, so at this point, everyone's aware is what is present in the residence based on your initial entry.
Yes.
Okay. Do you ultimately go back upstairs and secure the room with where the dog was barking?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you find in that room, sir?
The dog, the room with the dog.
Yes, sir.
It was the washer and dryer, I believe. I'm not sure what else was in that room.
And if you could describe the dog's behavior when you took possession of him.
He was tired. I've not been around that dog. I don't know the dog normally, but he was thirsty. There was no water in there or anything. I mean, and he would be up and barking, and then he would just stop. It was just.
Okay. At some point, do you go back to the downstairs, particularly the kitchen area? And at some point, do you have cause to inspect the contents of the pot?
Yes, the contents of the pot. It was determined that there was a head, a severed head in the pot.
And did you observe the contents of that pot?
I
on
did.
The 28th. Okay. So after the residence has been sufficiently cleared, crime scene has been set up, are you working to look at any relevant pieces of evidence that you may find within the residence?
Yes, the next step in this process is to obviously begin an investigation into what occurred. It's to identify pieces of evidence that we need to take so that we can, as a group, it's a group effort. It's not just me working the case. There's other detectives, there's other units that all assist, from forensics to cyber. And what we do is we identify evidence, we note its location, it's bagged and tagged appropriately through their protocols, and then we go through each room to ensure that, whatever is available as far as information to us, we can see that, observe that, and learn from it.
And before the crime scene goes to picking up physical pieces of evidence and documenting the crime scene through the use of video and photographs, were you present when the remains of Lisa Guy and Joel Guy Sr. were removed from the residence?
The entire process took a while. There were we had to pull out due to the dangers of the toxicity or something like that. They didn't want anybody else in the house except the people that could be in the hazmat suits. Okay. So I was present during that time and also attempting to coordinate information in terms of identifying, finding out next of kin, and trying to get the story of what happened.
Okay. And excuse the question, but are you aware of how the body parts were physically removed from the tubs and what was done with the liquid that was in the tubs?
To my knowledge, the liquids were placed in some type of container that is approved by the EPA in dealing with biochemical components. As far as what happens when they put that on the truck and how that was handled, that I do not know. And as far as the body removal, I know that the Regional Forensic Center would have, they were in there to get the pieces out and put them in whatever storage containers they were using.
Okay. And I want to talk to you now about kind of how you went about identifying a possible suspect in this case and what measures you took and what led you ultimately to Joel Guy Jr., present in the court today. If you would talk to us first about any sort of relevant evidence at the crime scene.
When I was able to go back into the house, there's an upstairs bathroom that had a Walmart bag in it. The Walmart bag had a receipt in it, and I literally got the information off of the receipt and went to Walmart to try and figure out who had made a purchase, because Walmart is known in the law enforcement community to have cameras everywhere in their stores. They have cameras outside, especially the Parkside Walmart. So I got the information off of the receipt that was inside that bag on upstairs, and went to the Walmart where that data was pulled by the individual that was working loss prevention that night. We're able to observe it then and then fill out the formal request forms to go through the registered agent that produces those formally. But it was a starting point for the investigation, and that's where the video of Mr. Guy Jr. at the Walmart making the purchase. I believe it was on the 26th during the 3 o'clock hour. That's where that video was found and observed, and that's where we also learned the tag on his vehicle. Upon contact with the daughter, Michelle Dennison, now Tyler, I learned that Joel was also in town for Thanksgiving over the holiday. There were no other people that she knew of that were staying at the residence or spending the night there or visiting from out of town. That they had done Thanksgiving and left. She described in pretty good detail the vehicle, which I observed in the Walmart video with the Louisiana tag, and in that having that knowledge and information combined with the obvious interpretation of the scene, we moved forward with the investigation.
And so that's one receipt that was recovered from the upstairs guest bathroom. Did you have cause to come across another receipt from the groceries upstairs?
Yeah, in the groceries, it was either the groceries or Lisa Guy's purse,
Excuse me, the purse.
where the receipt was located for the large purchase. And I did the same thing. The information was relayed to Walmart personnel, and a video was produced.
Piece of evidence that's contained in the State's Exhibit 475, sir. In fact, I'll have you grab that if you would. There's some gloves on.
Could there be multiple pieces of evidence or just one? I have to do dual layers.
If you would, sir, tell us what we're looking at.
This is the, I'm sorry. This is the Walmart receipt that was located upstairs in the what would be labeled the guest bathroom, detailing a date of 11/26/16 with a time of 15:35:25, which would be 3:35 p.m. and 25 seconds after 3:35, detailing information on the receipt to include items that were recovered inside the residence at 11434 Felden View.
And sir, does it tell on that receipt how the items were paid for?
They were paid for using cash tendered was $40. No, sir. Your Honor. Multiple pieces or one?
I'm going to show you what's been entered as State's Exhibit 358, sir. You can open that.
the purse collected from 11434 Golden View. There is still some cash remaining in the bag.
And is this where the second receipt is found from the large grocery purchase?
I believe so, sir.
And were there also receipts found for PetSmart on the same day?
Yes, there were.
Referring first to the Walmart receipt, sir, if you could tell us the identifiers to that date regarding the transaction.
The transaction occurred, it's at the bottom of the receipt. It was, this one is an older receipt. This is November 12th, 2016. This is a receipt that she had in there. And here's one from November 26, 2016 at 12:18, 18 minutes after noon at the 10,900 Parkside Drive, Walmart, detailing the items purchased are consistent with what was observed and documented at the Golden View address in the foyer. There's also various other receipts from other days that were in her purse, and then there's also what appears to be a grocery list written on a note: beer, bacon, sausage, Ben & Jerry's, pistachio, dog snacks, Gain, OxyClean, and stain remover.
Is that consistent with the groceries that you observed through the front door?
Yes, there are some of that. There's some of that in there. Yes.
Folks, we got a little bit ways further to go with this witness. We haven't had a break in a while, so let's go ahead and take a short recess. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. You may leave your notebooks and chairs. I'll see you here in about 10 minutes.